Hello, and thank you for joining today's webinar, COMPLi HBS Legislation India, presented in collaboration with Cureline. Just a few reminders before we begin the presentation. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available to all registrars and attendees within 48 hours after the event. As we are all continuing to work from home due to the pandemic, we hope you will understand if we run into any technical issues or hear background noise from the speakers. We appreciate your patience and your involvement. If you have any questions at any point during the presentation, please ask them using the Q&A function, which you should see at the bottom of your Zoom window with the large letters Q&A. We will answer submitted questions at the end of the presentation. My name is Maria Menicu, and I'm the primary contact for human biological samples at scientist.com. I have worked for the UK's National Healthcare Service, managing both clinical and research aspects of liver transplant at one of London's transplant centres. I was also part of the founding team of a University College London initiative to enable ethical and compliant access to fresh human tissue for research. My role at Scientist.com and the initiative for this webinar series is to support human biospecimen project needs and help researchers and suppliers navigate the complex HBS space through the Scientist.com platform and the COMPLi functionality. COMPLi has been enabling visibility, traceability, and control over the acquisition and use of human biological samples in research since 2015. I am really excited about today's event, where Cureline will help us all better understand the regulations and best practices surrounding sourcing and using human samples from India. Cureline has an extensive presence in the HBS acquisition space and has operations in India. With us today to discuss India's HBS regulation is Dr. Harman Singh, VP of Biospecimen Operations. He has over 15 years of experience working, managing, and developing biorepository, histology, and digital imaging laboratories. Dr. Singh has earned his medical degree from Odisha State Medical University, has practiced medicine as a general practitioner in India, and received certification in clinical research conduct and management from University of California, Berkeley. He has been Vice President of Biospecimen Operations at Cureline since 2018. During his years in Cureline, he has overseen expansion of Cureline's clinical network in the US, as well as in Europe, Eastern Europe, and Asia. Also with us today is Dr. Birendra Kumar Yadav, lead consultant of Cureline India and an ISBER regional ambassador. He also has over 15 years of experience in the area of biobanking, cancer, stem cell and cell biology, and hematology research. Dr. Kumar is manager of India's first liver biobank, known as the National Liver Disease Biobank, ILBS, New Delhi, India. He has also responsibility of the ILBS COVID biorepository. He is associated with ISBER as regional ambassador of Indo-Pacific region for the growth of biobanking in this region. Dr. Kumar earned his doctorate in medicine at College of Medicine, Kwangwon National University, the Republic of Korea, and has authored 31 publications so far. Thank you both for joining me today, and I will now hand over to Dr. Singh, who will guide us through the HBS legislation in India.
Thank you, Maria, for the lovely introduction to Scientist.com platform, and for both Dr. Birendra and me. Hi, everyone. Good morning or good evening, based on wherever you guys are joining from today. My name is Harman Singh, as Maria has told you guys. I'm VP of Biospecimen Operations here at Cureline. I will be the lead presenter today. I am joined by my dear colleague and friend, Dr. Birendra, who is joining us from India. As we all know, today's topic would be, we would glance over the human biospecimen collection space in India. And during the presentation, we will be taking a look at the biobanking laws, which are changing and how these changing are affecting the biobanking aspect of sample collection in India. Before we start with the presentation, I would like to go through what Cureline is. the brief introduction of Cureline and its group of companies. Cureline at the parent company has three major subsidiaries: Cureline Human Tissue Biobank, which is Cureline.com, Cureline Histopathology, or CBP, and the third one is Molecular Services, which is a subsidiary of Cureline, but San Diego is the hub of Molecular Services division. Each division is its own identity, but they work in conjunction to help facilitate research and providing research or pathological services such as sectioning, staining, IHC of human animal tissues under CBP, and molecular services such as DNA, RNA extractions, complex protocol development, and cell tissue culture development under the CMS branch. Cureline, moving on, Cureline has been in business for providing quality human biospecimens since its inception in 2003. The core of Cureline business model is providing R&D expertise as well as human biospecimen acquisition for precision medicine or whoever is doing biomarker research or a preclinical research in the biomedical field. Our global approach to commercial biobanking has helped us bring quality biospecimens from all over the world. In about 20 plus countries, we have clinical sites, and we currently have about 10,000 individual clinically defined samples banked at our hub here in Bay Area. These samples are collected under ECIRB approval from all around the world and are ready to be delivered to whoever needs these samples at the moment. But additionally, we can do prospective collection of samples as well under special guidelines and strict protocols from our clients. Before diving deep into the biobanking field in India, let's familiarize ourselves with the key bodies that govern these laws in India. First of all is the Council of Medical Research, ICMR, which has been established in 1911 and is the parent body that oversees biomedical research and ethical aspects of research in India. Both councils of scientific and industrial research and Department of Biotechnology oversee the technical and the scientific part of the research. ICMR first came up with the ethical guidelines in 1980, and over the years has been updating these policies. The last substantial update was done in 2017. Before going further, I would like to emphasize on the picture of India here. India is a very diverse country with very diverse ethnical background of the population. India has been the original melting point before American melting point came into existence. The basis of research in India have been updated to the 21st century with the recent amendment of laws by ICMR. Moving on to the next slide. ICMR guidelines on informed consent have been updated in 2017. These guidelines have been updated to meet the research standards of current times. Major focus is laid on making sure the participants of the trials participation is voluntary. Subjects are fully informed why they are being asked to participate and what are their rights while they are part of any clinical trial or a biobanking subject. Under Section 11 of ICMR guidelines, a comprehensive section has been added to address the laws governing biological material, data collection, and biobanking. These sections, there are about 7 sections which are part of the section 11. Section 11.1 is biobanking. Section 11.2 is storage of biospecimens and data with their personal identifiers. Section 11.3 is ethical issues related to donors. Section 11.4 is ethical issues related to research. 11.5 is biological material data in forensic department of labs. Section 11.6 is governance of biobanking and biorepositories. Section 11.7 is special issues related to data sets and data collection from the patients. For data that is collected, the institutes or the custodians or trustees through their respective ECs, and researchers have no claim on the ownership of or custodianship of the data that is collected from the patients. Key points that stand out in terms of biobanking are the ownership of the biological material and data, which according to the new Icmr guidelines lies with the participants, and the participants can withdraw from any study or at any point of time. Second point that is of emphasis is related to transfer of biospecimen. An MTA has to be executed between the two parties that are collaborating. The ethical committee and MOU are required to oversee the transfer of samples from one party to another, even if it's an international collaboration. In the next 2 slides, we will be touching a very vital topic of export import of samples in and out of India. The old and outdated import policies were very restrictive in terms of approval or of transfer of biomedical specimens or biomedical equipment. Icmr would only sit 4 times a year, and the applications would be only considered in those 4 meetings. This would lead to substantial long waiting period and delays in getting an HBS export. In 2016, Director General of Foreign Trade came up with amendments to these policies. The import-export of HBS for commercial purposes was put under Journal number 17. The customs-related policies were simplified to help remove the hurdles for smooth interchange of data and HBS between collaborating parties. The key points that came up from the revised import-export policies are that the process is streamlined, it's hassle-free, it's industry-friendly as it requires less manpower, reduces the time between the application and the actual transfer of the samples. No special import-export licenses are required. All transactions are governed under the MTA between the collaborating parties, and which in turn are under the EC have to be approved by the ethical committee. So when we talk about international collaborations, which are between 2 parties, we are talking about international collaborations between global entities such as NIH, WHO, World Bank, or we can have a academic collaboration with foreign institutes and universities. As per the current Icmr guidelines, a commercial entity like Cureline can establish its own clinical sites in India and procure samples and transfer them to its partners all around the world. So if you guys are looking for samples, Cureline can be of help to source these samples from India to United States or anywhere around the world. That ends our the presentation part of our webinar today, and we are ready to take your question and answers.
Thank you. Thank you, Harminder, for that very interesting information. We can now get into some of the questions that you have all asked, and please carry on entering your questions into the Q&A section, and we will get to as many as we have time for. The first question is, do researchers need to file for IRB and deal with Indian or US, or I suppose any other customs for import of the samples?
No, the Cureline would be the primary company which would take care of all the import-export licenses that are needed to ship the samples out of India.
Yeah, but here I can say that from India to sending the samples, there is no need of the import and export license because due to the new regulation. And for other country, I don't know, but for the sending the samples from India, and there is no need of the any import and export license nowadays.
First question I can answer is, how can human samples be sold if the donor owns the biological samples? The samples are never sold. It's the clinical data that is attached to the samples which is of the value. And when a patient or a donor signs a informed consent, he's informed that samples will be used for research, and that's when we are able to transfer the samples. Next question is, why is the whole blood collection maximum volume limited? Will this ever change? Unfortunately, that is not changeable. The blood collection volume is restricted by the ethical committee, or and will I don't think it will change in the future. Is MTA required even if it's done through scientist.com? No, you don't need an MTA. With Cureline, you need to sign an MTA with scientist.com. I think Maria can chime in on this, yeah. Right? And we already are in legal framework with scientist.com, and so you don't have to sign a direct MTA with us. You can go through scientist.com, register on their platform, and through them you can work with Cureline.com. Are there restrictions on the volume of blood that can be collected from patients? Yes, there is restrictions as per EC local ethical committees, and Dr. Brinda can give me more on the volume of blood that can be collected per patient.
So generally, a patient can give consent whenever he is donated for the samples, like 1 unit and like this. But for the research point of view, that is a 10 to 20 ml is enough for the collection of the samples.
So the maximum blood that can be collected is 20 ml of blood,
yes,
per patient. Yes.
Yeah.
I'll just jump in and take this opportunity just to add on to the previous question a little bit about the MTA. For those of you who are not familiar with the model of the Scientist.com platform, the agreement to use the platform has a baseline agreement that actually incorporates MTA terms, and those should be more than sufficient to cover the needs for the sample transfer. So there shouldn't be any additional need for that. Just reminding everyone, carry on asking your questions. One more question that we have is, are post-mortem samples available in India, and are there any specific requirements for these samples?
Yes, post-mortem samples are available in India, and as per my experience, we are routinely collecting the post-mortem samples after taking the consent of their relatives or
as the law is in the United States, next of kin consent is taken, and the samples collected under that consent.
Fantastic. And are samples in India mostly collected through clinical trials, or are they usually part of the standard of care?
So the clinical trial samples are collected, but they are bound with the clinical trials itself. But for a research application, uh, uh, you have to work with a biobank or a commercial biobank such as Cureline to get these samples to do some research. But the standard of care does not allow to collect samples for research. You have to have a special biobank in place which can collect these samples for you.
I think that pretty much concludes our questions.
Just an update. If you have a question that do you need to file an IRB or deal with Indian or US customs for importing human samples, the IRB and the Indian custom parts would be taken care by Cureline. You can go through scientist.com, place your request, and we will take care of sourcing the samples for you from India.
Thank you so much. If there are no more questions, or if you do decide that if more questions come to mind right after this webinar, please contact us. You can contact Cureline directly at info@cureline.com. You can also contact scientist.com through the multiple ways that you can join us. You can also reach us at marketing@scientist.com. There will also be, oh wait, I see that there's one more question that's coming through right now.
Should we share consent form with clients or just format of consent? You don't have to share the consent form. You just have to share the format of the consent form with the client.
Correct. And just to let you know, scientist.com actually, due to the data protection that exists, that we abide by, like personal information are actually not permitted on the platform. So it will always have to be either redacted, fully anonymized, or just the template form.
Yes, most of the times just the format of the consent is required. In rare cases, the actual consent form, which is stored at the clinical site where the collection was done, usually is required. So, but most likely just the format of the consent and the wording in the consent are enough. I think.
Yeah,
go ahead, Maria.
No, I was just going to remind everyone that this is a recorded webinar. It will be made available as well, and you can reach out to all of us. Harminder, Dr. Kumar, there are final words that you would like to wrap up before we?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you so much for scientist.com, Maria and Jesse for organizing this lovely webinar. I hope this was of some information to you guys, and you guys were able to learn some new things about biobanking in India. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us at info@cureline.com or marketing@scientist.com for further clarification. If you have any projects which you want to implement in India, we are here to help you coordinate the collection and the import export of samples out of India to United States or anywhere in the world. Thank you so much for all the questions. And I would love to see more questions, but if we are done now, thank you so much and have a good day.
Thank you all so much for joining us today. Just as a reminder, as you leave the webinar, you will see a quick survey. We would really appreciate it if you could fill this out. And thank you to Cureline for their involvement in the presentation. And thanks to all of you for joining us. And I hope you found this presentation useful.